right, this meeting will come to order. We'll first call the roll.
Mrs. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Waters.
Here.
Ms. Heinstreet.
Here.
Ms. Silva. Here. Dr. Mason.
Here.
Mr. Holman.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is correction and approval of minutes from our last meeting back in December. Are there any objections to the minutes as written and shared? Okay. No objections, corrections, or edits to the minutes from December 18th. I declare those minutes approved. Next on the agenda, number 4, questions and public comment. Individuals who have registered to speak with our city clerk, and I have them here, are now invited to address the Planning Commission. I have your name, and I'm going to call each one of you up in the order that's been provided. So each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and we have it right there. I'm going to keep us all accountable to that timer. I do have 3 expectations for everyone in the room. The first is, please do not applaud speakers. Having a space that encourages speech and diverse sets of views are important to making this run. So creating a hostile environment by clapping, applauding, jeering is not going to be acceptable. 2, I don't want to speak for everyone here, but I think we have a pretty awesome committee, obviously. So let's make sure we keep our comments as respectful as possible. Okay? And then the third expectation is there are a lot of people here that have registered to speak today. We have 33, okay? So that's 99 minutes of commentary, which is perfect. I love it. Democracy in action. But if you've heard a point be reiterated over and over, please just say, I agree with what's been said. And so we can move. I don't want to discourage comments. I don't want to discourage perspective, but I do want to try to move things on if we can, okay? So if we can be as efficient as possible, I think everyone in this room would be appreciative. Sound good? Okay, so our first public comment today is from Ken France. Missy, do I need to say his address or am I?
The speaker should announce their name.
Okay,
and
Ken
address.
France at 331 Pinnacle Drive.
Good evening. Again, my name is Ken France, and my wife Julie and I live at 331 Pinnacle Drive. We're both retired and plan on living in Lake Mills for the rest of our lives because we absolutely love it here. Choosing to live in the Ridge, a golf course community, is the biggest financial commitment that Julie and I have made in our lives. The idea of losing property value due to the elimination of the golf course greatly bothers us. We have found out during the last 2 months that we are not the only ones that feel this way. We are 2 of many Lake Mills homeowners who have formed an organization with the following goals: to preserve the golf course and green space, to assist in finding a buyer who will keep the golf course running, to support the new owner and assure the success of the golf course, to promote the positive activities for golfers and non-golfers to enjoy utilizing the golf course and its amenities year-round. We have also planned 3 phases to accomplish these goals. Phase 1 is to stop changes to the future land use map and zoning that threaten the golf course's existence. Phase 2 is to help find a new buyer committed to achieving its full potential as a successful golf course. And then phase 3 is support the new buyer in whatever way is necessary to promote success and longevity of the golf course. A membership drive being one example. We should note that in less than 2 months, 227 Lake Mills residents have already committed to our cause. We believe that number will only get bigger. We ask that you please vote against any future amendments for land use map changes and zoning changes that would eliminate the golf course. We urge the Planning Commission to adhere to one of the goals mentioned in the city's comprehensive plan, and that is to attract and retain businesses that enhance the city's character, appearance, and image as a desirable place to live, work, and visit. Please preserve our golf course. For more specific information, check out our website at lakemillsgolfcourseassociation.org. We're also on Facebook. Thank you.
My husband Jeff and I recently moved to Lake Mills in August and live at 105 Pinnacle Drive. We fell in love with Lake Mills for its small town atmosphere, the history and character of our downtown, and most importantly, the outdoor lifestyle that the city provides with the lake, the Drumlin Trail, and the golf course. These are assets that draw people here. It's why we moved here. I am here tonight in support of saving the golf course from development. My husband and I are avid golfers, and as new residents, we were looking forward to being members of the golf course. We bought our house on Pinnacle for the proximity of the golf course and for the beautiful views we enjoy. We paid a premium to live on the golf course and to live in the Ridge, which, as our neighborhood sign promotes, is a golf course community. I understand the current owners no longer want to operate the golf course. They claim they've received no credible offers to continue golf operations. But why would they consider any offer to buy it as a golf course when Loos Homes is offering them twice what it is worth as a golf course? Their supporters will say they have the right to sell to whomever they want. I disagree with this. They bought a golf course that is part of a golf course community. This request to change the zoning, if approved, will help the current owners profit at the cost of 100 other residents who will lose up to 20% of their property values. Our current zoning should protect the property owners, their property values, and rights. We need the city to recognize the potential this property holds to be a successful golf course and clubhouse or supper club. This golf course is an integral part of the community, just like the lake, the trail, its parks, and downtown. The Lake Mills Comprehensive Plan shows the golf course as parks and open space through 2040. The current total parks and open space in the city of Lake Mills is 231 acres. This includes the golf course. Rezoning the 140-acre golf course to residential reduces the parks and open space to less than half of its current acreage. Page 76 of the plan says one objective of the land use is to preserve environmental corridors and other valued resources by limiting development within these areas and enacting land use regulations that limit the negative impact from nearby development. Also included in the comprehensive plan are other viable properties available to support residential growth without sacrificing this valuable asset. As a new full-time resident, I am asking the city to reject the proposed zoning changes. The city can still promote growth without sacrificing the very things that make us legendary Lake Mills. Please preserve the golf course as an asset to Lake Mills, and please protect the property values of your residents. This preservation is what will ensure Lake Mills will remain both a desirable place to live and a premier destination. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Ryan. I live at 215 Pinnacle Drive. I built my home on the Lake Mills Golf Course in 1999 as part of the Ridge subdivision. We are one of the original Pinnacle Drive owners. I did not choose Lake Mills and the Ridge by accident. I chose it because of the quiet, the open space, and the small town charm that made Lake Mills feel special. Not crowded, not rushed, and not generic. Lake Mills Golf Course is not just a parcel of land. It is part of the identity of Lake Mills. Much of Rock Lake, just like much of Rock Lake and the historic downtown itself, it's one of those places that gives our city the Norman Rockwell charm. The kind of town where people take evening walks, kids ride bikes, neighbors wave, and visitors think, this is a place I want to come back and enjoy again. That charm matters. It's fragile, and once it's gone, it can't be rebuilt. High-density housing may look reasonable on paper, but in reality, it's a permanent change permanently changes the character of the area. It replaces open views with buildings, quiet mornings with traffic, and green spaces with congestion. It pushes more cars onto Main Street, right where students walk to and from our schools, and removes wetlands and natural buffers and protects this land protected this land for decades. I travel for work quite often, and I always sit by the window. From above, when I pass over city after city, and I see the same thing over and over again. Cookie cutter subdivisions where growth of that city is passing by the charm that's possible. But when I fly over Lake Mills, I see the lake, I see the golf course, and I see the city with creativity, identity, and an intention. Do we really want to lose that? I've heard several different plans of action regarding the golf course. Rezoning and redevelopment is irreversible. Once it's done, there's no going back. Allowing the golf course, number two, allowing the golf course to continue does not automatically mean blight if it is not sold. That blight only happens when we give up and we stop planning. With clear direction from the city, this path leaves open opportunity for private buyers, community-based ownership, or even partnerships. While city ownership is an option, raising valid cost concerns is definitely a concern. It should not be dismissed simply because it's an effort. Most towns successfully invest amenities that preserve the character, support tourism, and strengthen community pride. There is a viable path to financial success of the golf course. With creativity, marketing, and diverse business opportunities and community support, just like any other business, this course can thrive. What worries me most is the idea that Lake Mills must choose between progress and preservation. That's actually false. There is a big difference between temporary uncertainty and a permanent loss. If we lose the golf course, Lake Mills risks becoming just like any other city, no longer quaint, no longer distinctive, no longer a place that we feel like Norman Rockwell version of Lake Mills. I respectfully ask you to reject the rezoning of the golf course community, not just for today, but for the future. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Jeff Allen, and I live at 146 Pinnacle. Here are some of my feelings about this sudden plan change, this sudden change to build over 100 homes on our almost 100-year-old golf course. I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to talk about golf. I'm a lifelong golfer and a current member of the golf course. And I'd like to address the future of golf in Lake Mills. On the state and national level, golf membership is growing. 47 million people played golf last year. Locally, Madison's public golf courses set a record with 160,000 rounds played. And this was up from 152,000 rounds played in the previous season. 24% of the people who live in Wisconsin played golf at least once last year. New technology has introduced young people to golf, and their participation has increased almost 50% within the past 7 years. And wouldn't it be nice to see young people on their phones getting yardage distances instead of spending 5 hours on social media? Women have also flocked to golf recently, and that's at a record rate too. So golf is no longer just for old retired guys like me. COVID-19 actually is proving to be good for golf. Between 2020 and 2022, millions played golf for the first time, and many have stuck with it. Courses that are successful are changing with the times and offering flexible memberships, youth golf, family and social events, along with improved food and beverage options. Golf is also good for local tourism, helps support area businesses, and offers employment opportunities. In the late 1990s, when they started to build what would be over 100 homes, they constructed this sturdy brick sign, and it says, "The Ridge, a golf course community." Actually, Pinnacle Drive is named after a golf ball. I don't know if you knew that. Not my favorite golf ball. I would have preferred Titleist Drive myself. But recently the city has invested a lot of time and resources into developing the future land use plan. And the plan shows the golf course where it is now. And now it's your turn, our turn, to step up and secure this vision for our beautiful and unique city. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dale Rossi and live at 822 South Main Street. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, even though public speaking is definitely not my strong suit. But given the chance and not using it, I don't think I could live with myself if I didn't say what could make the possible difference on your decision regarding the rezoning of the current golf course property. My wife is Teresa. We are both lifelong residents of Lake Mills and now reside at 822 South Main, like I earlier stated. That is the property right next to the south parking lot of the golf course. The 18th hole is directly behind our backyard. I believe we are some of the longest residing homeowners living on the golf course. I also believe we stand to be the most negatively affected residents if this development is allowed to go through. When we were given the opportunity to purchase our lot nearly 30 years ago by Monty and Jennifer Lounsbury, previous owners of the golf course, who were using the proceeds from the 7 lots on the facing South Main Street to help them fund the development of 9 new holes, which made Tyranina Golf Course an 18-hole course. We felt kind of bad building our home on the original practice putting green of the 9-hole course. But the opportunity to live on the 18th hole with the beautiful view of the golf course in our backyard was way too appealing to not take the chance. While living at our home for the past 26 years, we have witnessed thousands of golfers finishing their final hole with handshakes, fist pumps, high fives, hugs, kisses, pictures, and many other expressions. It's literally a priceless experience to witness. To think there's a possibility for all that to go away and be replaced with concrete, vinyl siding, and asphalt shingles keeps me up at night and gives me nightmares. If the preliminary plan for the 120 plus homes is approved, this would make our residence a corner lot, and with the new view being the west side of a vinyl-clad home. I can't imagine, after living with my wife for the last 42 years, who was a real estate agent and broker, what this would do for the desirability and the value of our property. I've always been told location, location, location means everything in regards to your real estate value. In closing, I strongly urge you to vote no to the change of the current zoning, as I do not feel it should be your responsibility or the city council's to help bail out and enrich, in the owner's own words, a failing business, while the golf course industry has never been more popular. Your decision will impact not only my property, but at least 100 other property owners' home values and lifestyles, and potentially thousands more people from enjoying one of the nicest assets our city has offered for nearly 100 years. Thanks again for your listening to my little spiel.
Brett Daniels, my wife and I live at 650 Pinnacle Drive. Lake Mills Planning Commission members, thank you. Thank you for your time. Something doesn't add up. The Lake Mills Golf Course was purchased by the current owners in December 2011 for $675,000. This is on the Jefferson County Land Records online. $675,000 in December 2011 is the equivalent of $965,000 today. The Lake Mills Golf Course is currently assessed at $1.5 million per the Jefferson County Land Records. The current asking price on the realtor listing is $3.6 million. Something doesn't add up. In December 2011, the current owners purchased a historic golf course. They didn't purchase land to develop. They knew what they were purchasing and the limitations on that land. The current owners are pushing the fact that they've been trying to sell for years. Yes, that's absolutely true, but it's been at a real estate development price. It's never been at a golf course price point. If the current owners market the property at somewhere near that 1.5 million tax assessed value, they would have interest from people that want to keep this as a golf course. Is Lake Mills really going to let a real estate developer bulldoze a historic golf course 2 years before its 100th anniversary? Who are we as a community to do that? I can't blame the current owners. We all want to make money, and making 5 times their original investment would be quite a sell. But this is not real estate land to be developed. As an aside, the Lake Mills Golf Course sign is read up until this last week, "Go Badgers, closed for the season," just as it has for the last few years in the off-season. Within the past week, though, that sign has changed to "Go Badgers, closed." This is a subtle change, but it does speak to the posturing that is making this sale go through. We have a highly motivated buyer. We have a highly motivated seller that have spent thousands to move the public sentiment in their favor. But it's not working. It doesn't add up. If the current owners are losing money each year, per their public statements, then they should be able to turn over 5 years of tax records to this committee to show that. Same thing. You know, when someone sells something for more than 5 times what they paid for it, someone's being taken advantage of. In this case, it's not the buyers. They'll make a handsome reward off the sale of these proposed lots. But the ones being taken advantage of are the 6,200 residents of Lake Mills. You're taking away a gem of legendary Lake Mills. Please protect it. Thank you.
Dave Wendt, 145 East Oak. I'm going to just probably go in a little bit of a different direction. I grew up in Lake Mills, lived here all my life, and gotten to know a lot of people due to a lot of the civic activities I'm involved with, being a businessman and so on. And when I ask people that have moved here why they came to Lake Mills, they have 4, 5, 6 different items that they always, just about everybody says. First of all, they think the people are really friendly here. Our schools are great. And then we have some awesome recreational opportunities. Rock Lake being probably the top. Our parks are great. Our youth programs are excellent. And the golf course serves many people. So my hope is that all these will continue and keep getting better and better so that people will come to Lake Mills to live and to visit. Thank you.
Good evening. In 2023, the City of Lake Mills adopted a comprehensive plan that is described as the blueprint for future community growth, change, and preservation for the next 20 years in the City of Lake Mills. Much effort was put into the development of this plan. Importantly, it was stated that any program or action taken by the city that affects land use will have to be consistent with the plan. Some current city council members and planning commission members signed off on this document, which was adopted a short 2 years ago. Now those same members are being asked to amend this blueprint and diminish the values they identified as important, and I stress 2 years ago. The plan states that the city's natural resources must be protected. Open space must be preserved. When and if the city is to be expanded, areas of development are identified in several places. North of I-94, Mud Lake Road, Harvey Road bordering the glacial Drumlin State Trail and Brookstone, and another area on the northeast side of Tyranina Park Road. This 2023 plan shows the golf course as parks and open space. The plan does not show that this area is to be developed. A cited public involvement survey found that people valued the preservation of open space as the #1 need for the city. Another objective identified 2 years ago was the fostering of distinctive and attractive communities with a strong sense of place. Anyone who drives or walks through the Ridge is impressed with the quality and type of homes there. The Ridge is filled with unique, one-of-a-kind dwellings. The proposed Loos development will cram in smaller homes that will not match the character of the existing homes in the Ridge. Look at the development on Mud Lake Road, which I believe would serve as the blueprint for the golf course expansion. Homes are smaller, lack the stone facades common in the Ridge, and lack landscaping. Development of the golf course by the Loos Company will be incongruous with what is already there. I urge the Planning Commission and the City Council to think about what was determined to be important 2 years ago and to remain true to the values that were outlined in their plan. Thank you.
Next is Clark Collins.
Hello. Hi, Clark Collins, 900 Pinnacle Drive. Everybody's, I think, making great points, and I'm not going to belabor a lot of the things that have already been talked about. I just like to talk about how the golf course and golf has affected my family. I came here and spoke at your last meeting. I won't say a lot of those same things, but my wife grew up here in Lake Mills, as did my in-laws. They didn't grow up on the golf course. There really weren't homes on the golf course at that time, but they played golf, and my brothers-in-law became good golfers to the point where one of them went to school to work in the golf industry. This is how important it became to him. We had an ongoing golf outing every year for many, many years as a fundraising event because of their love for golf that started all of that. My brothers-in-law, we were on golf teams here in the high schools. And that's a big part of this. We're such a unique community to have 2 high schools, like within, half a mile of each other, and they both have golf teams. That affects a lot of kids then that don't have that opportunity. They grew up playing golf. They were on the golf team. My brother-in-law met his wife at a golf tournament because he was playing in tournaments. I mean, these are things that affect people. These are important parts of their lives. And I think for a lot of young people, not having the golf course would be really a travesty because there's many experiences that they may not otherwise have if they don't have that as something that they can participate in as a young person. So I oppose the rezoning. I think the golf course is great. Actually, I think they've done a great job at keeping up the golf course. I think it's in better shape now than it was even just a few years ago. I've been a member since we've lived here, so over the last 9 years. My kids have worked at the golf course. My in-laws worked with previous owners. So we have a lot of history there, and it just has a lot of history here in Lake Mills. And I think that's what's really important to keep in mind with this. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dennis Doren, 1051 Forest View Court. I moved here 6 years ago with my wife, and we were thrilled to be located essentially near the golf course. My name may be familiar to you in that I wrote each of you 2 letters during this recent occasion. I will not reiterate things I already said to you in my letters. Instead, what I wish to do is just bring a summary of a lot of the things that people are talking about in brief and what it is that you need to consider. To me, there are 3 things that you're considering in this decision. The first one is whether or not there's reason to change from the decision you made 2 years ago. It's already been brought up about the plan for future development through 2040 that was signed off on in 2023. Is there sufficient reason to make any change? You are having this conversation, we are having this conversation because somebody's asked you to, not because the city has promoted it, not because any of you has specifically promoted it. It is something that somebody else simply wants. I understand why. It's very obvious why. It's a business looking to make money. I get it. I would probably do the same thing under the same circumstance, to be fair. The second consideration, besides whether or not there's reason to change from 2 years ago in a 20-year plan, the second consideration is the potential threat that if the rezoning is not done, that the land will be abandoned. I frankly have a lot more trust in the financial sense of the owners, in that at some point it'd be worth selling for still substantial money as a golf course. It will not be the same money, as was already pointed out by a previous person, I won't go into the details, for development, but it'd still be quite substantial money. I don't think that that potential of just being totally abandoned is realistic. The third thing for your consideration, maybe for your consideration, I'm not sure it is of need, is the kind of development that would be put in place. I'm not talking specifically about the company. I'm not making any comment about the company one way or the other. But the model of the type of buildings that have been done, for instance, in Mud Lake, is not in what the company's presentation in a public meeting would call, does not match up to what they called in keeping with the type of housing that exists in the Ridge. Those are not the same, and again, there's been some examples of that, so I won't reiterate all that. The bottom line to me is the issue, the first point, that the land use was already determined 2 years ago, and I ask you not change that. Thank you.
Is Joel?
Okay, Joel Hirschfeld, 250 Pinnacle. I'm here not just as a golfer, but as a family member, neighbor, and someone whose last few years have been shaped by Lake Mills Golf Course. When people look at this property on a zoning map, they may see acreage and development opportunity, but for those of us who know this place, Lake Mills Golf Course is not just land. It's a community asset built over generations and gathering space that strengthens the social fabric of Lake Mills. Let me start by thanking Katie and Randy for their years of ownership. 7 a.m. or 7 p.m., it was Katie who was answering the phone and moving carts. Randy spent countless hours cleaning up brush, adjusting sprinklers, and making this a course we loved. With a young son, I understand their desire to move on, and I highly respect that decision. Family is so important, and I wish them many blessings on their next adventure. As I talk family, this golf course has shaped my family. It got us through COVID as my wife, daughter, and son took advantage of the time to spend outdoors, where golf became almost a daily norm. My daughter enjoyed the game so much she joined Lakeside's golf team, playing varsity for 3 years. My son, now a junior, also loves the game. Instead of just sitting on electronics, we would find him spending hours on the course behind our house, chipping and putting and working on his game. He's looking forward to the spring golf season where he has his first opportunity to compete for a varsity spot. All he wanted for his birthday this past weekend was golf-related items, as it truly is his passion. Golf is a way we bond with each other and our community. For example, this was the first 4 weeks of the season for us last year. 9 holes with my son, Will. 9 holes with Will and my brother. 9 holes with Will and our 9-year-old neighbor boy. 9 holes with Will. 18 holes with Will and my brother. 18 holes with Will and our 11-year-old nephew. 18 holes with my wife, Betsy, Will, and Kayla. 9 holes with Betsy and another neighbor couple. 9 holes with Betsy and a group of a dozen Lake Mills teachers. 11 holes with Will and our neighbor Brad, who is learning the game. Betsy played 18 holes with our widowed neighbor Sue. I recorded at least 100 more rounds our family played this year, but for the sake of time, you get the point. As you can see, golf isn't just something we do. It's become part of our life, a way to meet people, build deeper connections with neighbors, and teach life lessons. Preserving this course is not about opposing growth or progress. It's about thoughtful growth. It's about recognizing that not every piece of land should be maximized for short-term return when its long-term value to the community is far greater. Once land like this is rezoned and developed, there's no undo button. The loss is permanent. No future planning document can recreate this place. Protecting it sends a message that this community values more than just what can be built. It values what can be experienced. I urge you to consider not just what Lake Mills Golf Course is today, but what it has meant, what it can continue to mean if preserved. I understand there's some needs for significant upkeep of sprinkler systems and facilities, but I urge you to maintain the current zoning and give another owner the chance to keep this going. For families like mine and for generations yet to come, this is a place that matters. Thank you for your time and the responsibility you carry on behalf of this community.
Yep, Betsy Hirschfeld, 250 Pinnacle. And I live with that guy, so you can tell we like to golf. I really don't need to say much because so many people have said things already. I was just going to tell more stories about, our kids being 3-1, falling out of the cart before they even get to the first hole. Like, we love golf, and I'm sure they did at one time too. It's just, we would love if this could stay a golf course. Thanks.
Wendy Brown, 962 Center Street. The golf course property is the largest area of beautiful green space in the city of Lake Mills, which has been part of the community and enjoyed by many for about 100 years. It is imperative that this property remain an open green space for the benefit of the community, our visitors, our high schools that use the property for local sports, and our wildlife friends who call it home. The property is perfectly located within the city in close proximity to downtown. Currently, there are multiple areas that are being developed and homes built by Loos Homes. There should not be homes built on the prime, beautiful space that we lead with in what Lake Mills has to offer. If this property changes, the beauty and green space will no longer be accessible by the entire community and visitors. It will become a profit center for outsiders to decimate. Our beautiful city will be headed toward Potter's Field from its wonderful life. I heard that Loos Homes is trying to purchase farmland outside of the city area by St. Paul Lutheran Church. If they build outside of the city, that should give them plenty of new homes in the city area. We need to think about the consequences to having all of the additional homes built. We will need additional police officers, plows, and the biggest is the school system. We will need new schools to support the influx of children. This is going to be an incredible expense on the current residents, many of which are retired or their children are grown up or they never had children that attended the Lake Mills schools. We have recently had many new apartments built in Lake Mills that has already created a strain on our infrastructure and attempts for new schools to be approved. What will we have to offer the good people who live in Lake Mills or visit our city? Currently, we boast about the lake and golf course. We are not able to walk around the lake as the visitors of Lake Geneva are allowed. We also do not have restaurants or work opportunities. It will eliminate the people from stopping off the interstate or planning a weekend getaway. I have given this situation a great deal of thought and consideration. I have arrived at the following viable scenario. Break out the restaurant and sell that separately as a must-have restaurant. Keep a 9-hole golf course. Create a beautiful park in Lake Mills with a couple of tennis courts, pickleball courts, and trails to walk or bike in warm weather and cross-country ski in winter months. All of this could be possible if the city of Lake Mills were to buy the property for the golf course and the beautiful park. Many nearby cities have beautiful parks as I described above. For instance, Jefferson has a similar park, Stoppenbach Park on Linden Drive, adjoining the golf course property. Now to discuss how this idea could be paid for. The restaurant section would be a separate owner and not the city. Lake Mills has a large current surplus that could be tapped into for the purchase. Also, the city received over $440,000 in 2024 from the state. Maybe some of that money could still be available. The ultimate benefit would be gained from the state by submitting grant applications to receive funds from the DNR. For example, they have programs to assist in the purchase price for these properties up to 50%. And for the trail development up to 80%. It could be similar to Friends of the Library, Friends of the Golf Course Park, which could be set up to accept charitable donations. The ultimate goal of the property should be to preserve for the benefit of many people and animals. It should not be carved out and split up for a developer to profit and 100+ new residences to have a slice of a beloved historic landmark property. It should be a top destination for all of our visitors and residents, a place to meet family and friends for a wonderful hike on a trail or a Friday fish fry. Don't forget your clubs for a nice walk and round of golf. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Lake Mills City Council members and fellow residents for your time. My name is Greg Wheat and I have resided at 226 Prairie. No, not a golf course property. For about 22 years this March. I've been a member of the course for about 17 years as well. I'm here to urge you to vote no to the rezoning of the golf course as I feel it would be very detrimental to our community. Since golf is my main hobby, it is an excellent resource for me to have the course here in town so I may make the evening leagues in time, most of the time. I also generally play the course on the weekend and when I'm able to attend the infamous Red Tea Wednesday group at noon. I've met many of my closest friends because of the course over the years and had hoped to meet many more there. The Lake Mills golfing family has excellent camaraderie and competition element I have not found at any other golf course. You cannot go to other nearby courses, find people willing to invite random strangers for a pickup scramble, Stableford, treat them like one of their own, and eventually bring them into the family. However, if my personal love for the course is not enough, let's look at city impact factors. Increased traffic. These areas are already difficult to traverse during school in and out times. Increased air noise pollution. Lost jobs. One of my son's first jobs was on the golf course. Lost revenue spent locally. People like myself will spend recreational dollars in other communities that have courses instead of spending them here in Lake Mills. Lost revenue from nearby communities. Watertown and Cambridge only have more expensive private courses and no public facilities. Many people come from these and other nearby towns to Lake Mills to golf. Lost park and open space. As other people have stated, looking at map 3.1 existing land use, the golf course has about 50% of our current park space. Considering we only have about 9% park space at this moment, that would put us below 5%. Madison is currently approximately 11%. Milwaukee is currently at 10%. Why should we have half the park and open space in our small town versus these larger cities? I empathize with Randy and Katie as they've worked hard on the course. However, it is not the responsibility of the citizens of Lake Mills to help them make additional money by a rezoning. In consideration of Loos and other additional housing in general, there are plenty of other areas on the planned future 2040 map. Again, not the responsibility of the citizens of Lake Mills to help them get a good deal by rezoning our park areas. Thank you for taking the time to consider my thoughts, and again, please vote no to the rezoning.
Thank you. My name is Vincent Studer, and my wife and Joanne and I live at 230 Pinnacle Drive, which is adjacent to the golf course, which a lot of these people in here are adjacent to the golf course. Also, I wanted to thank you for serving on this planning commission and trying to do what is best overall welfare for legendary Lake Mills community and its residents. I don't think you get enough appreciation of that. We moved to Lake Mills in the fall of 2021, right during COVID, and purchased our home at 230 Pinnacle Drive. We wanted to live in this region of the state because our daughter and family live in Madison area. We looked at houses in all the communities or surrounding communities and could have selected another. But we chose Lake Mills for numerous reasons. One of which is that the community provides many recreational activities and opportunities for families. And of course, the golf course is one of those. I've been a member for 4 years, all 4 years that I've been here. And I've made good friendships through the golf community. We love our backyard view of the course and various wildlife. My wife and I oppose converting the golf course to a housing development because it will take away this valuable community asset and recreational attraction, as many people have already stated. We understand there are financial implications either way on this proposal, but we ask you to thoughtfully consider long-term impact of zoning change that will allow the elimination of this recreational attraction to Lake Mills. We also have concerns about what will happen to high school golf programs, which other people have said. We are also personally concerned about the potential increase in traffic congestion for that area of Highway 89. I have witnessed several times near misses of accidents when driving my grandkids to the school. So I'm concerned about that. Also believe, as other people have said, there's going to be a negative impact on homeowners' financial well-being, but also their mental well-being. I really feel that's a key thing to be considered. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration on this matter.
Yeah, good evening. Marti Elder, 1041 Forest View Court. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about the proposed golf course development. My husband and I live in the Ridge neighborhood, and we walk throughout the community most mornings. We have gained a deep appreciation for Lake Mills and its many amenities and community pride. I would urge each of you, before making any decision, to think beyond the abstract plans on paper and consider what would actually transpire if the golf course was transformed into a new neighborhood. First, based on the shared plans, nearly every existing tree line would be removed or impacted to begin road and lot construction. These are not small trees. They are large, mature pines, 40 to 50 feet tall, within established tree lines that sit directly behind many people's homes. Removing them, I imagine, will require having logging equipment, significant trucking, and noisy disruption, all accessed primarily from Main Street. Beyond the disruption to homeowners, this would also be the destruction of significant wildlife habitat, birds and animals that rely on these trees. My second community concern is increased traffic. There are only 2 entrances and exits to this proposed development, Main Street and Country View Lane. We all know how congested Main Street can be, as mentioned several times tonight. Mike and I witness this most mornings on our walk. Adding traffic from over 120 proposed homes into the middle of that corridor will create real safety and congestion issues. And to avoid that congestion, many new home residents will inevitably use Country View Lane, a small circular street that was never designed to function as a through road. That traffic impact will fall squarely on a quiet part of an established neighborhood. Third, consider the home construction process itself in the middle of an established neighborhood of homes. This will not be a short project. It will take years of heavy trucks, cement mixers, contractor vehicles, noise, debris, and mud. Approving this rezoning would subject your constituents to those construction conditions right outside their now peaceful backyards. These are constituents who paid a premium for their homes to have privacy and green space. I empathize that you are in a difficult position. Yes, this is a privately owned business, but this is not just any business. This golf course is embedded in the community and surrounded by established homes. The impact of its sale would be borne not by the owner, but by the residents of Lake Mills in traffic congestion, lost trees and green space, lost sports teams, lost recreational opportunities, and diminished home values. Many of us truly believe that with the right ownership and a genuine partnership with the community, this golf course could succeed, but converting it to housing would be irreversible. The golf course property is simply not the right space for a new neighborhood. Thank you.
Hi, Mike Elder, 1041 Forest View. I can confirm her time was 2:57 because she practiced it earlier today. Just wanted to make sure. She covered most of the points, and other people up here have covered many of the main points. Yeah, obviously that the golf course is one of the key features of the community. We've been here about 3.5 years. The main reason, we have friends that live in Lake Mills, and we've come to really enjoy the community. And one of the reasons we chose the house that we did was the green space behind it. Something, developing that golf course could challenge that. And some other points that haven't, I can reiterate the points about changing the long-range plan as far as the land use. This is something that shouldn't be done quickly. As some of the others have expressed, there's different options or opportunities for that to remain a golf course. And to make a decision now really eliminates the possibility of going through those options. So I think it's important that we do that. Also, one thing that hasn't been brought up is the covenants that have been in place for the neighborhood. I was able to grab copies of those from the previous homeowner, and basically it indicated that the property that the golf course is on is to be used as a golf course. And they went through the process to basically reaffirm that in the neighborhood, and making sure, I believe they have 77% of the signatures necessary or majorities required to reiterate that message, so that it should be understood that that golf course is to remain a golf course. And that was the intent and the impression that people had when they bought their homes there. And as I mentioned before, this is the main feature of the community. There are other properties in the vicinity that could be available for development that should be more likely explored. Thanks for your time, and thanks for serving on your committee.
I'm Gary Mullikin from 1141 Fairway Court. My wife is Denise. In November 2004, we responded to an ad in the local shopper publication. Lake Mills Golf Course, spec home, 1141 Fairway Court. We purchased the home and moved in upon completion in 2005. We weren't newcomers to this lovely town at that time, as we bought a home here in 1998. We bought the home on the golf course from Loos Homes because we were looking ahead and preparing for retirement. We are both avid golfers. I said avid, not good. But we love and respect the game. We raised a family here and vote, paid taxes, and shopped at your stores while one worked in Madison and the other in Pewaukee. We love this town and all its charm, from the Norman Rockwell setting of downtown to beautiful Rock Lake to our wonderful golf course. Please don't take away the irreplaceable asset of an 18-hole golf course open to the public. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Morgan Gieb. I live up on Pinnacle Drive. I moved there recently from Sherwood Hills Road. My wife and I moved there after a few years out in Colorado. We live with my 3 daughters, lovely daughters, and
I grew up here in Lake Mills. I lived on the lake and enjoyed everything that this town has to offer. I actually worked as a busboy for Monty for a couple of years and a golf cart refueling and maintenance guy for a few years up there. So lots of fond memories of the golf course. The golf course, he used to absolutely rock back in those days too. I mean, Friday nights were insane up there. They would rock until 2 o'clock in the morning. It was an absolute blast. My family and I moved to town because we felt we needed sidewalks. We couldn't exist out there in Sherwood Hills Road without sidewalks. It was dangerous. My 5-year-old daughter Millie has Down syndrome, and the idea of walking down the road without a sidewalk was a safety issue. Found out very quickly. She means the world to us, so we moved to town, and so to town we came. Since then, she has had 3 sprints to the ER for low oxygen. She's had open heart surgery to get her heart to pump more oxygen, and very susceptible to pneumonia. So clean air is super important to us. We measure it, we monitor it. She sleeps with 2 air purifiers and 1 humidifier in her room every night. This development is not just normal construction dust. Golf courses are treated for years with fungicides, insecticides, herbicides, and soil chemicals, many of which bind to soil particles. When that soil is disturbed over 3, 5, 10-year basis, a multi-phase build, those chemicals can repeatedly become airborne and inhaled. The biggest health concern is long-term breathing of contaminated dust, which can slowly increase the risk of asthma, chronic lung irritation, neurological symptoms, and possibly cancer, especially for children, seniors, pregnant people, and outdoor workers. The danger isn't single exposure, it's years of repeated low-level exposure during grading, excavation, and dry, windy conditions. I'm sure you think those will happen during this. Without strong controls, this becomes a chronic environmental health issue, not a temporary inconvenience. That is my personal gripe. I will be asking this planning commission for extensive reporting and mitigation plans if this goes through. Again, that was personal, now professional. What the golf course is a business. What they bought is a business. That is all that they have to sell here. I own and operate a business here in Jefferson County. When I bought that business, I bought it knowingly that I'm going to only be able to sell it as that business. People make bad investments. I'm sorry about that. It's certainly not this planning commission's job to bail someone out and change the rules so they can walk away with a payday. I think there's people in this room that would be able to run that business actually into the black, and they're probably present in the room tonight. I think forcing an audit of their 3 to 5 year weighted EBITDA would be a good start to figuring out where this business is truly operating so that the Planning Commission has a true understanding of what it should be selling for. Thank you.
Jacob Slaby, 602 Brewster Drive. First of all, I'd like to apologize to all the property owners here for all the golf balls I've hit into your houses. I feel really bad, but, tough. I love the game of golf. I've frequented the golf course over the years. I literally want to give them my money, to the annoyance of my bride. I have previously purchased memberships. I've hosted golf outings there with my buddies. We wanted to have a drink on their patio afterwards, but the bar was closed. My wife and I try to go there in the summer to enjoy their beautiful patio. However, they're seemingly seldom open. I would love to go there in the summer to use their driving range and teach my kids the game. However, it doesn't exist. I would love to test out new clubs and potentially purchase from their pro shop. They don't sell clubs or apparel. I would love to have a fine dining experience in their restaurant with my wife. However, they're seemingly, once again, seldom open. I would love to practice my swing on their indoor golf simulators, but they don't have them. I would love to watch Packer and Badger games in their bar. They're closed for 6 months out of the year. I would have considered them for my wedding 6 years ago, but I'm not entirely sure they even host weddings. My point is this. I think this is a valuable commodity to the community. It can be incredibly profitable. It can be open year-round. It would be a great place to watch a sporting event. It could host weddings, birthdays, retirements, and various events. It could be the supper club type atmosphere the citizens of Lake Mills have seemingly been clamoring for. It could have indoor golf simulators for colder months. It could have a driving range. They can organize more golf leagues. I think this is a government bailout. I am incredibly confident a new owner could increase profits of the course and restaurant. Rezoning and development is not the only option. If it was fairly priced, I think a new buyer would be willing to purchase it quickly and breathe a new life into it. Thank you.
Thank you. The main thing I have to say is, to follow up on the last guy, is the
current owners, Randy's doing a great job on the course itself, but the facility is never open. And whenever I talk to Katie about it, she says, well, the college girls aren't out yet from school. And we go, well, there's 1 million people, not 1 million, but 6,000 people here that want to work. And they could be open and have a viable clubhouse, like one of the other gentlemen said. It used to be rocking. I've been here 20 years. Almost everybody I know in town is from the golf course. So it's a great facility, but they're not running it properly to make money. I love golf, and I don't want you to rezone the area. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Bach. My wife Karen and I live at 341 Pinnacle Drive, next to the tee for the golf course's 7th hole. Let me begin by thanking you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My wife and I are opposed to the development of the golf course into housing. Let me provide a few of the reasons why. We retired to our current home after living in suburban Baltimore for 34 years. After living so long in a large metropolitan area, we wanted to retire to a small town with small town charms, not too far from Madison, where our 2 sons work. We found that place in Lake Mills. When we found a house for sale on the golf course with its beautiful views and open space, we jumped at the chance to buy it. Neither I or my wife golf, but we appreciate the aesthetic value of the golf course. Its location on the golf course was a major reason for our buying the house. Now that reason is threatened with disappearing. The golf course presents recreational opportunities that will be lost if the housing development is built. Once the golf course is gone, it cannot be restored. It will be gone forever. For nearly 100 years, the golf course has existed in Lake Mills, but now, in its 98th year, it is deemed by some as no longer worthy of existence. It seems a shame that our current generation might fail to maintain the golf course after 98 years of operation. Lake Mills has a city master plan. The proposed development does not conform to that plan. Other development land is available on the outskirts of town, which may suit the city's and the developer's needs and conforms to the master plan. These lands seem to be a more natural choice for development than the golf course. If the proposed development goes through, property values for homeowners on the course will decrease. Certainly the town will gain tax revenue and the Loos company will profit from the development of the golf course, and the current owners will profit from the sale of the golf course. But those increases will come at the expense of those living on the golf course. Google AI states that a house at a golf course will sell at 8% to 20% premium compared to a house not on a golf course. This means a house that ceases to be on a golf course will stand to lose from 7.4% to 16.7% of its value. Therefore, a $500,000 home could lose between $37,000 and $83,500 in equity. Given approximately 100 houses of $500,000 value on the current golf course, this would be an overall loss of between $3.7 million and $8.35 million in home values. In conclusion, let me say that the golf course has existed for nearly 100 years, and there are many good reasons to preserve it, of which I've only mentioned a few. Thank you for your time and your consideration of what I've had to say.
Hi there. Nick Vavra, 340 Pinnacle Drive. My wife and I are on the golf course. I'll keep it short. We share a lot of the same, it's a passionate group. We share the same sentiment. We have a young family. We enjoy golfing. It's one thing we like to do together. I'm pretty sure she appreciates my free lessons. But we definitely look forward to, making it a family game as our kids grow up. And we definitely think we have an asset on our hands with the golf course, and, we don't want to lose it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Goelz. I'm not going to reiterate a lot of the other points that would be made, but a couple I would like to make. My wife and I reside at 845 Whispering Pines Circle. I am the past president of the Whispering Pines Estate Homeowners Association, and I'm speaking here today on behalf of all 26 unit owners. So we have gone out and polled them, and they all agree that we should not rezone the golf course for development. And the reasons for this, I have 6 reasons. I'm not going to go into the detail that I have written down because they've already been cited, but the first one is denigration of property values. You've heard that already. I have the same statistics that the other people have talked about. The lack of adherence to the strategic plan. Again, you've heard that multiple times. My point there is if you have a strategic plan, don't you need to follow it? One that you haven't heard a lot about tonight is lack of sensitivity to the infrastructural requirements. A number of people have alluded to this, like what's going to happen to traffic, what about the environmental impacts, what about increased city services. All of those things need to be taken in consideration before the zoning request is approved. Another one is this is an extremely consequential decision for the Planning Commission and the City Council to make. I would suggest that because it is such a consequential decision that you folks may think you might want to get a broader audience to help you make that decision. But it is a consequential decision. It's one way only. Another one is the awareness of Lake Mills to non-residents. I can't tell you how many times I've seen multiple people come through the golf course. They've had events there that bring in outside people. You've heard some of this, but I'd say the golf course probably brings in more non-residents than any other business in town. The 6th point is that you've heard this too, golf is on the rise. That statistic, again, is there. It's up 16% in the last 5 years. For me personally, we moved to Lake Mills about 10 years ago because of the small size of the town and its proximity to hospitals and airports. I'd never been a golfer, but because of the proximity of our residents to the golf course, I decided to join the golf course and take lessons from the local pro who talked up here earlier. I finally gained the confidence to join some of the leagues that they have there, and I met a number of local folks who I now consider friends and play indoor golf with during the off season. In other words, golf has given me the opportunity since I moved here to meet other people in the area and become friends with them, and I knew nobody when I moved here 10 years ago. So myself and the 26 other owners of the Whispering Pines estate ask that you carefully consider this request and reject it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gordy Lodahl, and I live at 831 White Pines Court. No one knows where that is. It's actually on the 8th fairway. So here's another NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? So I won't go over all those points that have already been discussed. I think other than people that are directly impacted by the property, there's probably a lot of people in this town that would like to give some input. And I would suggest that perhaps something along the lines of the survey that you did for the restaurant over on the beach might be a good way to get some input. Maybe it's possible to even use the election coming up in April. I'm not familiar with the way this commission works, but hopefully you have some input into that. I also want to point out that I did work at the golf course for 3 summers. I consider Randy and Katie good friends. I know that they worked hard, but they were perhaps in over their head in the way of marketing and public relations. But so be it. I used to golf at a place in Black River Falls called the Skyline. The city owns that course, and they lease it out to the people that operate it for $1 per year. I'm not saying it's a good deal. I'm saying there's other options out there. Perhaps subsidizing whoever comes in. Hopefully someone comes in and buys the course, and you could help them with their whatever money problem is the primary problem there. So that's about all I would suggest. Bottom line, why rush into this decision there's a lot of factors that need to be considered. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Connie Eschenbach. I live at Country View Lane. I'm right next to Hole 2, which they're planning to put a road right through. I grew up here. This is my hometown. I wanted to stay small. I lived in Woodfield Lane, out in Shorewood, and it was beautiful. My backyard was a park, and I moved to the city, and when I was able to purchase the condo, I had this big, beautiful yard again to look out on. So Lake Mills is a small community. Let's keep it that way. Let's not let them build all these homes. It would just destroy this little town. I remember moving here. The restaurant and the bar, the fish fries at the golf course. There was lineups to taste that good fish. The traffic would be terrible if this happened to build homes. You have Lakeside, you have the public school, you have St. Paul's, you have Pinnacle, you have all the little streets that go on to Highway 89 or Main Street. It would be terrific, a lot of traffic. We'd have a lot of problems. Plus, it would impact the city services. And it also would decrease our home value there. I enjoy the wildlife that we have coming through. We have cranes. They actually lay in our property. All afternoon, we get to watch these little cranes. And we have the owls. They hoot. In the middle of the night, you can hear them hoot. We have a lot of wildlife. Where are they gonna go? There's hardly any more green spots left in Lake Mills. And someone brought up chemicals. Once you start digging up the ground, and I am very much into organic living, you're gonna really, over the 100 years it's been there, they've been putting chemicals in that ground. Once you dig up that ground, we may have health issues. So, thank you.
I'm Phil Bordon. I met Connie 10 years ago, married her 5 years ago, and we've got a beautiful place with a nice view of the golf course. One thing I've noticed about Lake Mills is you've got one main drag going through town, it's 2 lanes, and it can be busy at times. The other day, I was driving south of town. About 3 miles south on Highway G is a solar farm going in. They've got a parking lot there for their employees that are building the place. It's got room for about 100 cars. They said that they average 75 people working at a time. Just north of their driveway on G is a sign that says no solar traffic. They don't want cars driving from there through Lake Mills to get to the freeway. And again, they've got about 75 employees average per day, probably more in the summer. The golf course proposal is for 143 single-family homes. Each will have at least 1 car. Most will have 2. That's the way it is today. Some will have 3 if they've got kids, teenagers. So you're talking about 250 new cars in Lake Mills, and most of them are going to be going north on Main Street. And that doesn't include the 100 family apartments going in the old Sentry property. I don't think your roads can handle that. Please don't do this. I thank you much for your time.
Hi, my name is Jenna Spielmann, and I live at 251 Pinnacle Drive, which is on the 17th hole of the golf course. Like many people here tonight, I also decided to make myself familiar with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan references the importance of eventual expansion of housing specific to single-family homes, but it doesn't do that at the expense of the golf course. Map 3-2, detailing the future land use plan, includes several neighborhoods, but the golf course remains. There were several goals and objectives related to this topic, two of which I plan on highlighting. Objective number 4, under the Utilities and Community Facilities goal, wants to ensure city residents of all ages and physical ability are able to live within a safe and convenient distance of a public park or other open space. Selfishly, I would like to maintain the trees next to the tees on the 17th hole because when my children drive me crazy, I send them into those trees to look for golf balls, and we have a garage full of them if anybody is ever playing through and needs an extra one. Objective number 5, under the economic development goal, focuses on increasing opportunities for regional tourism that are compatible with the city's natural resource, cultural resource, and community character goals and objective. The Lake Mills Comprehensive Plan, made up of a robust 198 pages, was developed with careful consideration for the future of Lake Mills, and some of the current City Plan Commission members helped create it. My ask tonight is simple and is in line with what the majority of people have already asked for tonight. Follow the plan that you worked so hard to create, and please preserve the golf course in that process. Thank you.
My name's Jenny McAdow. I live at W6329 County Road B, and you've heard from many people who live on the golf course. My husband and I do not live on the golf course, but we're avid golfers. I'm here tonight because the Lake Mills Golf Course is not just a piece of land to our family and to many others in this community. It's a place where life has happened and memories have been made for us. 2 of our 3 children worked at the golf course while they were in high school, and they learned responsibility, teamwork, and pride in their community, lessons that they can carry today. And that kind of opportunity close to home matters for us. Our son also played on the Lake Mills Golf Course team. He's an avid golfer today and for more than 10 years, and much of that time has been spent on this course, although we do travel to other places occasionally. And this past summer, he proposed to his fiancée on the 18th green. Not sure if Dale saw that and all the high fives, but both are annual members of this course as well. We had grandparents travel 6 hours from Southern Illinois to see that event and be there and play golf with us that day. Other family members came from Stoughton, Cross Plains, Astalon, Madison, and Lake Mills, of course. Afterwards, we celebrated a local restaurant, also continuing to support the local businesses. I want you to imagine them telling their children of that event that day, your dad proposed on the 18th green at the Lake Mills Golf Course, and then the kids saying, where's that? What is that? And them saying, it's no longer there. The Smiths live on the 18th hole. They're imaginary. If you can also imagine getting a hole-in-one on hole number 12 or any of the other par 3 holes and trying to paint a mental picture for your friends and family as you tell them, or you could just go show them and hope that you could do it again. My husband and I have been annual members of the golf course since 2020 and typically play 3 to 4 times per week. During the pandemic, we played a lot. and it meant a lot to us. When times felt uncertain and isolating, it gave us time to spend together, breathe fresh air, move our bodies, spend time together close to home, and it gave us normalcy and connection with one another. The course has also been a place for us to gather with our friends and family that travel hours to come see us, sometimes 6, 7, even 9 of us playing together on the golf course and making memories together. Many comment on how beautiful the course is and how lucky we are to have the course in our backyard. We, of course, could go play at different courses and even dine out in another town, but we would choose to support our local community and share it proudly with our friends and family. As others have mentioned, this also supports wildlife and mature trees, and a lot of those things would go away. So we hope that you would consider seriously the effects that this will have on our community and the memories that can be made. And please don't let this be a place that we have to explain, instead a place that we can show to our friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Anita Martin. We live at 261 Pinnacle Drive. My comments tonight will have to do with the legality of what's being considered. Is a housing development of any kind a legal option for the property given legal documents which, in the absence of proof to the contrary, appear to be valid and legally binding? On February 22nd, 2016, then City Attorney Vicki Schmidt rendered legal opinion to then City Manager Steve Wilkie regarding the Ridge covenants. Here is an excerpt. The covenants and restrictions for the plat of the Ridge were recorded in 1994. They say the outlots that constitute the golf course, its cart paths, clubhouse, etc., may not be used in any other fashion besides the golf course until 25 years have expired and until over 50% of the lot owners and the developer, if the developer has not already assigned its rights to the Architectural Control Committee, have voted to approve the amendment, cancellation of the waiver of the restrictions, and then only if the city gives its written consent. After 25 years have lapsed, in June 2019, the covenants will automatically stand renewed for successive 5-year periods unless they are canceled through the process described above. The only difference is that after June 2019, the city would no longer need to provide its written consent. The covenants were subsequently amended in August 2004, with the amendment being recorded in 2013. The amendment did not change the requirements as described above for canceling or amending the covenants. It appears, for the good of all concerned, these issues need to be addressed by City Attorney Drescher before any action is taken on a recommended zoning change to accommodate a land use other than that of a golf course. In summary, Attorney Schmidt said that the 1994 declaration was legal and was recorded in 1994. The declaration and its covenants have since been automatically renewed and are valid. Earlier this month, as was stated before, 72 of 101 owners of lots in the Ridge signed a letter ballot to properly amend the declaration to say that the golf course outlet lots shall at all times be used exclusively as a golf course. So it seems like the main question that remains for Attorney Drescher to answer is, has the declaration been properly amended in January 2026? If not, why not? All future action turns on the answer to this question. Thank you for your consideration of these important matters.
Well, I want to thank Anita for covering the one thing that I didn't think was properly handled tonight. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Steve Quandt. I live at 319 South Ferry Drive. And you might remember that in December, I sent you a message encouraging a zoning change for the Lake Mills Golf Course. At that time, I was unaware of a deed restriction that prohibits the sale of the property to a non-golf course entity without the agreement of 51% of the adjoining property owners. Since then, I also have learned that qualified golf course operators have indeed expressed legitimate golf course operation interest, but not at the purchase prices that are on the listing price. So despite what I've been led to believe and what the rest of us have been led to believe, there appears to be serious market interest in the continuation of the golf course. And so I encourage you not to change the zoning. Thank you.
Can we take a 5-minute recess? Is that okay? Yeah. 5-minute recess? All in favor? Aye? Aye. All opposed? Okay, 5-minute recess. We will rejoin at 8:37. Matter. Okay, so we're now on number 5 on the agenda, which is a concept review for 800 South Main Street, the Lake Mills Golf Course. And before I invite the speakers to share their presentation, I want to clarify to everyone in the room and everyone on the commission that this is simply a concept review. Okay, no action is expected to be taken today. Okay, there's no vote, there's no action. This is simply a concept review. Okay. So now I'd like to invite the staff of Loos and Gremar to share with the community their presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, and thanks again for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Greg Loos. I'm the owner of Loos Homes and Gremar, my land acquisition and development company. Loos Homes is based just down the road in Johnson Creek and has been since 1997, nearly 29 years from now. But my connection to Lake Mills goes back even further. Before I ever started my company, I went to high school here in Lake Mills. I met my wife here and then worked right here in this community as a carpenter and remodeler. Lake Mills is where I learned my trade, built relationships, and built trust. Over the years, I've had the privilege of contributing to this community through building homes in the Arbor Creek subdivision, Shorewood Hills, Crestview Meadows, additions to Brookstone Meadows, and the Tyranina Point subdivision. Through all this work, one thing has become very clear to me. Lake Mills can benefit from more new single-family homes, as we're down to one more lot in the Brookstone Meadows additions. That's not just my perspective as a builder. I've heard it directly from community leaders, from realtors, from families who want to live here but can't find the right home. That's why I assembled a team and began exploring a responsible solution for this property that has been on the market. I believe that this property has had 3 different owners over the past 20 years, and it has been on the market for 5 years with no viable, sustainable plan that has come to the table. After entering a contract to purchase it, my first priority was to gather community feedback, which we did. My efforts and my ongoing commitment is to bring forward a future for this site that balances the concerns of the neighbors with the long-term needs of the community, while still being financially viable for the city. The concept we're proposing is straightforward and responsible. New single-family homes built at a measured pace with a variety of designs to serve a range of families and lifestyles. We are not proposing multifamily buildings. We are not proposing rental apartments. And out of respect for the history of this site and the feedback we've heard, we are not trying to maximize the density the way another developer might. We also aim to make the clubhouse available on the market to a quality restaurant operator who can bring new life and community value to that space. And importantly, we are offering a, I would say, super substantial green space reserve, which you'll find more out about shortly, to the city, land that can be preserved as parkland or potential use by another group with a vision for a 9-hole course. We are not asking for TIF money. We are not asking for TID money. My current plan does not include asking for tax dollars. This is private sector dollars. We're simply offering a path forward for a property that is at real risk of becoming unsightly if nothing is done. In closing, I want to emphasize to the Planning Commission that I'm not here to fight with this community. That has never been my intention. I'm here because this property is at a critical point in its life cycle. There may not appear to be a problem today, but there very likely will be if the course continues to sit vacant and eventually becomes a blighted property. My goal is to offer a balanced, realistic plan before that happens. A plan that aligns with the land use principles you're tasked with evaluating, responsible growth, compatible use, and long-term community benefit. This proposal brings the single-family housing Lake Mills has been asking for, preserves substantial green space, and meaningfully strengthens the city's future tax base. This is not about pushing something onto the community. It's about working with the community and with the Plan Commission to give the site a responsible, sustainable path forward. I believe this approach respects the concerns you've heard, addresses future challenges before they arrive, and provides a solution that fits the character and needs of Lake Mills. Thank you for your time and for the work you guys do on behalf of the city. Next, Katye Chawala will come up.
Good evening. We bought the golf course out of bankruptcy in 2011. We really liked the previous owners, and we tried regularly to frequent their business, as it was very obvious they had very little community support. But since we took over, we too have struggled to turn this business around. From 2012 to 2024, we have had a net income of negative $1.2 million. And I did bring the P&Ls. If anybody in this room would like to see them, I'm happy to show them to anybody. This number also doesn't include the original $675,000 purchase price or the $1.7 million in improvements we made to the property in 2011. So in total, we have realized $3.6 million in losses just trying to run this golf course. In the beginning of our losses were more substantial, but we did manage to stem the bleeding a bit. For example, a few years in, we realized we would lose at least $40,000 less a year by closing the restaurant in the winter and only running seasonally. By then, it was clear that most of our new business we were bringing in was from out of town, and these customers were less likely to travel to Lake Mills in the winter. But last fall, we hit a final wall, and that wall is our irrigation system. We had an electrical fire in our pump house at the end of last season that spread to at least 2 of our satellite boxes on the golf course. The estimate to replace the pump house and boxes is $500,000. We also need to replace the rest of our aging irrigation system, which is estimated at an additional $1.25 to $1.5 million. And these numbers do not even include the installation. Knowing that we couldn't pay for this upgrade or even come close to seeing a profit from this place until we were in our 80s or older, it is obvious that this business is not economically feasible. We also know that there is not a golf course owner around that would see the massive losses we have incurred and the substantial costs to upgrade the irrigation system who would take on this project at this point. Additionally, it is important to know that the longer a golf course sits unmaintained, the more substantial the cost is to bring it back. That is why hearing about a closed golf course reopening is just slightly less unique than a unicorn sighting. My husband and I finished throwing good money after bad. So now the golf course will sit closed and sit as 140 useless acres in the middle of Lake Mills if the rezoning doesn't pass. It is our private property, and it is not a public park, as many people seem to think, and that you've heard tonight. So we will not allow anybody public access to the land because it's our right as a private property and a business owner. I see Save the Golf Course signs all around the course, but what are they saving? We have already announced that we are permanently closed as of last season. We offered the homeowners a chance to form an association to permanently keep the golf course in 2020, and they turned us down flat. The developers have stated many times that they are willing to sell half the land to them to open a golf course, and no one has called them about this. Currently, their only idea to save the golf course is to try to persuade you to block rezoning. And frankly, what does that do? An overgrown golf course in the middle of town doesn't do anyone any good, and it certainly won't help anybody with their property values. The best thing for Lake Mills would be to create an additional housing rather than having overgrown land. We feel Loos Homes is the right developer to create this vibrant new neighborhood in this community. They have gone above and beyond to work with the neighbors on what they would like to see. I have been listening to public comments and reading social media posts, and the biggest complaint is the loss of green space. Well, Loos Homes is willing to hand over acres upon acres of green space to the city, and this would be land that is accessible to the entire community, unlike our private land, which is accessible to no one. Additionally, new families could help support the remaining local businesses, and with more families in town, this community would be more attractive to new businesses. And speaking of businesses, I just want you to know how many local business owners have approached me about this situation, and frankly, many of them are horrified watching these events unfold. They are shocked by all the libelous and slanderous comments they are reading or hearing around town. And what was our crime to be trashed like this? Apparently, it was working hard and not giving up on a failing golf course until we could find an option that would benefit everybody. Potential business owners have told us this is giving them pause to consider Lake Mills as a viable location for a new business. Current business owners tell us that having new community members would go a long way in helping their businesses succeed. Finally, and most importantly, a new community development would bring in millions of property tax dollars into the community that we never could. Property tax dollars that would benefit the entire community and allow the community to grow and prosper for generations to come. By far, this is the best option for the property that offers green space for everyone, more customers for local businesses, and more revenue for the city. Thank you.
Next will be Mary Claire. I believe a lot of you have seen her in her door knocking campaign.
Good evening. I'm Mary Claire Lanser. My firm is Lanser Public Affairs. I've been working with community outreach since 1999, hired by real estate developers to speak with nearest neighbors, presenting a proposal and asking for reactions, quite like a survey. This is quite low tech. I have an information binder. This is the very binder I had with me as I visited 163 homes. I showed people, as I said, as little or as much as they cared to see. I wrote down their comments on these index cards. Again, super low tech. Whatever people said to me was written on these cards. I also gave people an invitation to the December 17 information meeting. When I didn't find people home, I left it at their doors. Looks like this. I said, I know a little bit about a lot, but if you come to this meeting, you'll meet the experts and get your questions answered. So I visited over 163 homes. Within those homes, I met and spoke with people at 75 of them between November 15 and November 22nd. Visits lasted anywhere between a few minutes to an hour and a half. I stood in a lot of backyards to better appreciate their viewpoints, literally and figuratively. This level of outreach is neither required nor typical. It is honest and respectful, and I carefully wrote down whatever someone said. It seemed to be appreciated except by 3 people. There was immediately sadness about the possibility that the golf course could become something different. The very first day I was talking with people, no one had heard this yet. By the second day, everyone had heard it. Most people couldn't conceive of the golf course not continuing, even as they know that the owners were struggling and that the course has been for sale for several years. David Werning and his team saw earlier drafts of my report and have taken steps to address concerns and suggestions to arrive at the concept that you will be looking at shortly. You may not hear much of this, but some neighbors told me that they would support this proposal because if the use were to ever change, single-family homes would be best, and people mentioned what they would not want, which you probably can imagine already. As happens in controversial situations like this one, people who are satisfied with the proposed development don't want to voice this in front of neighbors who are opposed. They are afraid to speak at public meetings. This is really kind of daunting to stand up here. Or express their open-mindedness about the future of the golf course. I want to assure you that I respect residents and am grateful they shared their thoughts. A one-on-one conversation at someone's kitchen table is much different than those spoken at a public meeting like this. My door-to-door report has been submitted to the city, and as such, is public record for anyone to see. As I look at that report, which is dated January 19, I can visualize so many individual speakers. They ranged from people who want Lake Mills to stay exactly as it is, no more homes, no new people moving here, even saying they'd rather pay more taxes, to not having anything change. To others, including one young couple on Pinnacle who said, families need places to live, and we will have new neighbors, and it will be fine. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's David Werning. I'm with Gremar. I'm also with Loos Homes. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for your time and consideration tonight. Before we present the concept plan we have and answer any questions that you may have, I want to make sure you understand that we don't take lightly what we're asking for here. I think many people are viewing this as a choice between a golf course and a housing development. That's why we had Mary Claire reach out before we even presented something to the city. We wanted feedback, we wanted input, we wanted to share a general plan that people could say, I like this, I don't like this, could we change this? That's also why we had the community meeting that she spoke of, that she invited to. At that meeting, we answered many questions. I submitted all them questions to the Plan Commission, should be part of the public record as well. And I tried to provide answers. I think I missed a few of them that night, but they're all there answered now. At that meeting, I gave out my phone number and I encouraged people to call me if they thought of something after the fact, if they had other questions after the fact. 2 people called me. I had a third person seek me out in public, and a 4th person reached out to us through our website who I spoke with. Of those calls I received, 1 person did not want this to be anything but a golf course. The second person that called was sad, but understood and was okay with the development. Had some questions and some concerns, which we tried to address for him. The third person lived on the course. He understood, and as he hated seeing the golf course not open, would be okay with single-family homes. The 4th person had ideas of a golf course. Could something be put together, houses and a golf course? And we took that feedback. We made some changes to that concept plan that was shared that night, and is the concept plan that you'll see here this evening that we're presenting. From the beginning, our vision too was to incorporate golf of some sort with this development. We had hoped that we would find somebody that could run 9 holes. We're not going to need all the land. We sought out golf professionals, golf developers. I had conversations. They all stopped in dead ends. There's a lot of repair that's needed. There's a cost to that. And it didn't seem to make financial sense. Our intention is to only do single-family homes on this property. Homes that follow the same restrictions that the homes that exist on the ridge now followed. The concept plan we're going to show this evening, and I don't know, Dustin, can you put up the whole thing? One of the feedback we got is, what about the other side of Pinnacle Drive? We decided we wanted to show that this evening. This plan here, I believe, is somewhere around 155 lots. What we need to do with this development is 150 to 160 lots. The rest of the land, we're willing to dedicate as parkland to the city. We can incorporate walking trails in there. If there was a viable person interested in running the golf course, if the city wanted to run the golf course, I understand. There is upwards of about 80 acres shown here that could be green space, could be used as a golf course. We're not a golf course developer, but some research I did, you could run a par 3 or a 9-hole golf course on 80 acres. This 80 acres, like I said, we're willing to donate as parkland. As Greg mentioned earlier, we heard there's a need, people would like to see the restaurant be open. We plan to keep that a separate parcel that could be sold off and operated as a restaurant, a supper club, which we've heard and I believe was needed on this side of town. We've heard from other city meetings that there is a need for housing in this community from city officials and people in the community. The city's own comprehensive plan speaks to that. Homes would bring more support of local businesses. We did a study. It showed us that, and it was very conservative numbers that we used, over a 10-year period, just the first section, not the outside, would bring in the neighborhood of $12 million of tax dollars in. Just over $5.5 million of that $12 million would be used to service those households, leaving a net benefit of $6.7 million, which is split between the county, the city, and the schools. Then the net benefit to the Lake Mills School District would be in the neighborhood of $2.9 million. The Planning Commission will be asked to make a decision on the future land use map, a question of what is the best use for this land. The memo that is attached by the city planner speaks to that comprehensive plan. And I think it states, in truth, closure of the golf course operations were not contemplated with the recent update. Perhaps they should have been. We've heard a lot of comments about nature and open space, parkland, from our meetings with people, the community meeting we had, and we're offering that as part of this development, somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 acres that we would offer up as parkland. We ask you to not only consider if this is, if not this, then what, but also ask, if not us, then who would consider giving this much green space in the city? Honestly, I don't know of a developer that has put 80 acres of green space out there on a 144 acre project. This property is located right in the middle of single family homes next to a school. I can't picture anything else, and we're proposing this because we care about the community. I am willing to, and my team, answer any questions that the Planning Commission may have about the plan that we've presented the city. Speak to any
questions out of the gate?
I have a question. I keep hearing comments from the community. What about, like, we already have problems with electrical, water, sewer, all that stuff. If the addition of this, 150 lots or whatever, how's that going to affect us?
We have our engineers with us here tonight. I think he can talk about the process.
Yeah, so with any development, we'll do a study of those things for the amount that the development needs, make sure the infrastructure can handle it, and then there will be coordination with the utility districts to make sure that bigger picture, the new development can be sustained by the existing infrastructure.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Butters.
Is there any planned traffic study?
Again, we're at the concept review stage. We're here asking. That is part of the process, and a lot of what we've done is not the normal process. We've put out ideas ahead of even presenting them to you to get feedback from the community. That is part of the plan. I have reached out to the fire chief in regards to this and gotten some feedback. We have talked to staff about some of the things that we're proposing in order to get feedback from the city. Those are things that we would typically work out as we put the general development plan together for this process.
So that's down the road. So what I'm hearing is there's other things to be done. We're just not at that stage quite yet.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
So what I'm hearing as far as traffic study, that's something that would be done later. We're just not at that stage quite.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
And I can touch on that. So Bryce Hembrook with SEH, one of the planners on this project. So at this time, this is the conceptual review, and we have applications in for a land use plan amendment to change the land use, to request changing the land use to planned neighborhood. And then the second application that we had submitted was for a planned development district. And so typically through that process, the city would request that we go through some sort of traffic study. So I think generally we would look at the guidance from the city regarding that traffic study.
Yeah, a question on the PD.
What I was going to do, yeah.
Thank you.
Should we have Dustin?
Yeah.
Dustin and Greg, if you don't mind, go ahead. And if you guys can take a seat or stand, whatever you like, and then we might call you back up. Sound good? Go ahead, Dustin. Take it away.
Thank you. So the memo that we provided is available online. Runs through kind of the high points of this as they've indicated. They submitted for a process. That is a land use amendment in a rezone. The first step of the rezoning process is a concept review. It's a high-level discussion of issues, layouts, code concerns, long-range plan concerns, and such. One of the challenges that we've had with this is obviously we've planned for this area to be a golf course for a long time. I've been with you for 20 years. We've done 2 plan updates in those 20 years. We've always contemplated this as being continued golf course operations. I would say it's the preferred alternative. In the years I've been with you, there's been discussions of more residential development on this from various owners. Nothing is formally ever come before us. I think that key question, if not a golf course, then what? This is really the first time it's been presented. I'm looking at Ms. Lazaris and Mr. Holman, who've been on the Planning Commission for decades on this. And just a little comment from Mr. Holman, who pleads with people to come out to meetings. It is wonderful to see. Please participate in our long-range planning process. This is what it's about. But that comment of, if not a golf course, then what? We are being asked to review a development proposal in relation to that. The most logical, if not a golf course, which is a private open space, is some level of development that is complementary to the existing development, to the family out there, and adjacent to the school, and preservation of green space. Those are elements of the comprehensive plan that we would look to implement as a part of this process. I think it's the most challenging issue that the Planning Commission is going to be facing, and that the City Council will be facing. we really aren't in the position to comment on whether or not a specific business or end user is viable or not viable. The long-range plan is intended to outline visions. It's intended to provide a level of understanding for future development to ensure we are making logical and rational decisions related to not just the development, but the utilities and the open space, so property owners can predict whether it's a commercial, industrial, or residential, so they can have a level of comfort and prediction of what's happening next to them. We have a responsibility to evaluate development proposals as they come forward on their face. And that's this process. So it isn't just summarily saying no. Plans can and do change. Plans are made, they're a snapshot in time based on a certain set of circumstances. And when this plan was created, the circumstance was there was no change to a very large private business in the center of the community. And now we're faced with a different set of realities here. We are being asked by a property owner that I would like to do something else with my property. And so grappling with that is kind of the foremost issue before you can start getting into the design elements of what they brought forward. There are many times when a developer comes forward with a future land use amendment request and a rezoning request with no kind of end use details. It's not uncommon. So I do want to say to the developer, we appreciate you putting in the time and the energy to give not just the planning commission and the staff or the community something to react to. It does help allay some fears and raise some concerns, which is a blessing and a curse when you're looking at land use, right? The more information you have, the more you can respond to. Less information you have, maybe the greater the fear of the unknown. So we do have to look at, if it's not going to be a golf course, if that is not viable, what should be out there? And it would be one thing for the community, for the decision maker to say, it should just be open space. Well, that is a value. That is a price tag. And property owners have an expectation on retaining value, or whether you're a homeowner retaining value or a business owner and retaining value, being able to sell property. As a business owner, obviously you're trying to make money on something that you heard from the current owner, some of the economic realities and operational realities that they are facing fiscally. So that does not make the decision making any easier for you, doesn't make it any easier for us. The comprehensive plan talks at length about the need for housing in the community. And we show growth areas around the community that require the extension of utilities and such to make happen. We've always prioritized infill development and redevelopment because of the efficiency of service, whether it's utilities or it is public safety issues. We've always strove to reuse land within the community before growing outward. We have a situation where this is a very cherished piece of property that, as you see, everybody feels a level of ownership for. But in reality, there's only one owner of the property. But there's a responsibility that should development happen there, that the community is a good steward of that development in relation to the neighbors, right? School to the north, surrounded by residents. Should the community allow development there? Getting into the details of the concept lines that are up there, it's kind of that next piece. So it wouldn't be logical to say we should make this industrial. It wouldn't be logical to say we should have a lot of multifamily in this area because it's surrounded by single family and it's adjacent to a school. So the discussion on land use in this memo, and that's why it will be a separate item. It's on a future agenda. with hearing notices that everybody adjacent will get about land use. That is one action item. The second action item is the rezoning to the plant to the R14 to single family district with planned development district. Planned development district allows a certain level of flexibility in the development, but there also is a requirement for community or public benefit for using planned development district. But as it relates to the land use, if not a golf course, then what? I can't say, city, you should buy this property as green space. That is absolutely an option to look at, that a property owner could sell it to the community for green space at whatever value is determined. In this case, they have contracted with a developer who's looking to balance future development that aligns with the adjacent land uses and a certain level of preservation of green space, open space, or accessibility, public accessibility to the property. So there isn't a silver bullet on this issue. You are going to be tasked with, if this is not going to be a golf course, what should it be? And in truth, the most logical thing is single family development. That does not mean it's the most popular, but also a property owner isn't entitled to a change because they want one. Those issues were raised here. It is something that you will have to evaluate and determine what's in the best interest of the community. So that's kind of the first piece of the process. The second on the concept reviews. The memo that we've outlined here, as I said, a certain high-level discussion on the layout. And we've highlighted a number of areas where there are good things that have been provided with the development proposal, multiple connection points, but there are also areas where we feel that there could be more connectivity for roadways and for public accessibility. The concept plan, in my opinion, still feels more of a yield plan than a refined development proposal. We outline from Public Works some of the concerns with roadway alignments. We've outlined some areas where the Phase 3 component, which is the east side out of CP Avenue, where yes, it has connections to CP Avenue. The city has always discussed about should there be connections from CP Avenue through this land to Eastleigh Park Place. I think people saw when 89 was under construction, we don't have a lot of good traffic circulation routes, alternative routes, especially for road safety, when we have only access to 89. And a priority of the community has always been, when I say the community, the Planning Commission Council and the staff, is to extend CP Avenue at some point down to 89 and have connections to CP Avenue. So those are some areas in the concept that the staff would like to see fleshed out a little bit better. We have some concerns about the green space. Developers indicated that the green space would be made available to the public, meaning they would be asking the city to take that as a dedication. That is a question that the Planning Commission and the council have to answer because there are implications associated with that. The memo that we put together here says at the concept level, we don't feel there's enough accessibility to those lands. We still feel that it's hidden behind the properties that are kind of fronting on it. So it functions more as kind of a private open space that the public would be, yes, they would have accessibility to it, but really be looking at the city to maintain it for the benefit of those property owners. We would require for parkland more visibility. That would be removing lots to make 200 or 300 foot wide areas available along the roadway so it's inviting to the public. If you live on the east side or the north side of the community and you want to come and use this green space, you should not be walking down a narrow path into just feeling like you're walking into people's backyards. Right? So that's an issue. The loop road in there provides a fair amount of yield. It's an awkward element, and perhaps alternatives to that could open more green space up and make it much more visible, accessible to the public. This is not an area we're looking at detailed program, community parks, active park space. There could be active park elements. It's something that would have to be evaluated. Should this move forward? Should it become, go to the planning process? And should the city decide it wants to take the parkland as dedication? Because then it becomes like any other public park. But we would have a responsibility to make sure that the park meets the needs of not just the residents adjacent to it, but community needs. We have not done that at this point here because it's really kind of a concept level. Those are items that get fleshed out later in the plan development process as a part of the general development plan and what would be after that, the precise implementation plan. We don't get into the details of engineering at this. It's broad level to make sure you can serve areas with water and sewer, to make sure roadways work, to make sure the layout functions. But this is the ability for a property owner to ask the question without having to put considerable dollars, not that they have not spent a certain amount of money to get to this point, but before you're actually doing utility design and such. We are not near that. We are in the first portion of, does this kind of pass the initial smell test with the Planning Commission in relation to long-range plans and expectations for this property. We've obviously been hearing extensively from adjacent neighbors. They've been the most noticed at this point. But if it's going to be available to the public, it is something that the city will have to evaluate, is how accessible does this land feel to someone who actually doesn't live adjacent to it? Because it's their park, it would be their park also. As we kind of get more detailed, we would look at lot sizes, and we have general understanding. The lots are about a quarter to a third. That meets the minimum requirements. We have a 10,000 square foot, which is a quarter acre minimum requirement. There are some lots that are larger than that. Should there be fewer lots that are larger in size? That's a conversation to be had by the Planning Commission, right? In relation to what's around them. But there's also a multifamily component in there. So it's not that it's all single family in this development. But those are items that have to be looked at. We don't have topography in relation to the layout. Questions were raised about preservation of certain mature trees and such. It's an important conversation to have, saying, does this design really afford preserving the elements that should be preserved out there? I can't say with a certainty that it does at this point. And when we start talking about the lot yields, it does have to pencil out for a developer. We aren't necessarily able to say, you must have 150 lots to make this work. More infrastructure means more lots are needed. Less infrastructure, less lots are needed. But I'm not the one to say that this meets their profitability component, right? The more that we try to preserve green space, the more accessible we try to make it, the more it's going to impact the lot use, right? And this is I'll say kind of the first iteration. We've kind of penciled out some changes here. It's really the first one that we've seen. We haven't looked at 2 or 3 different alternatives to the layout of this that they've evaluated to say, we can meet our lot yields with this. We've raised questions about that in our review at this stage, and we think it's an important conversation for the Planning Commission to have in providing feedback to the developer. Overall, does this development layout feel appropriate to you? If not, you should provide some statements about what your expectations are here. Should this be moving forward? When we are getting into utility, there's some utility comments in here that some parts of phase 3 are in conflict with some of the known utilities out there. Those are things that will need to be rectified. They certainly can be, but we try to bring them up. I don't want to say they're deal breakers here, but we try to highlight things in the review because we're at the easiest portion to make changes with it. Really, at the end of this, we've given you kind of a handful of questions to evaluate, right? You know, an opinion of the Plan Commission on the change of the land use of the properties to enable single-family development. Right? That's the crux of all of this, and you're going to need to provide feedback on that. And an overall opinion of the layout and the density. The density is way below what could be maximized on it just by doing the math. The land itself does not allow the greatest amount of single family out there. You are limited by topography, stormwater needs, roadways, right? You're never going to get to the maximum amount that could be allowed under the code. Right? The opinion on green space. Do you feel that the layout is preserving the amount of green space and the key areas of environmental features that should be preserved on the property? Because that could change the layout. If you're saying a certain wooded area, a certain steep slope should be preserved, that will impact layout. And those are things that you should provide feedback on. Does it provide the level of accessibility and visibility you would expect if the lands were to become public parks? Some opinion on the road access and circulation of the development. Make sure that we are providing multiple avenues to get in and out of this property. And then a little opinion on the future of the clubhouse and the bar. They would be asking for an exception to the plan development district to allow for that to be retained and viable in the future. So I know it's a lot to grapple with, and I can answer any questions you have, but really that's what feedback's necessary at this time for the developer.
So I guess just to summarize a little bit for you tonight, what it is that you're grappling with. You have a choice to make here. This would require a future land use map amendment. Unlike most things that are before the Plan Commission, the Plan Commission must approve an amendment to a future land use map amendment because it is an amendment to the comprehensive plan. If you do not approve at a future meeting, if it were to come before you, an amendment to a future land use map, the application stops there. It does not go on to the city council. If the future land use map amendment was approved, you then deal with the zoning change. You can only change the zoning of a property as long as it is consistent with your future land use map. So that's why the future land use map has to occur first. That's why your discussion and desires about the land use of the property have to come first. The zoning change is a recommendation from Plan Commission for final approval by the city council. There's kind of two things two questions that you might have. One, is a property owner entitled to a future land use map amendment or to a zoning change? The answer is no. The other piece of it is, and this answer may be obvious to you, can the city require a business to remain open or require a business to sell? That answer is also no. So what you're really grappling with is whether you think single-family home development is desirable or appropriate for this. If the answer is no, then you would reject the future land use map amendment. But to manage your expectations, it is not within the city's power to guarantee that it remains an operating golf course in perpetuity. It's simply not within our authority to do so. So that is what you're deciding between. To answer further the question about utilities that has come up, the city's water utility has far more capacity than is being used by the city. In years past, high users of water that used to be utility customers no longer are utility customers. The fish hatchery used to be a utility customer. They now have their own wells. They draw from Rock Lake. They're not. So that capacity that the city used to have to provide is not necessary anymore. In businesses such as Hamlin that used to be a large water user are no longer in operation. And so there is excess capacity within the city's water utility. And so that is not, city's water utility is not an impediment to development. The wastewater utility is undergoing a plant upgrade. No matter what happens with development in the future, if nothing else got built in the city of Lake Mills, you're still going to have to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant. That DNR requires you to build that wastewater treatment plant to the 20-year growth projection. So that population equivalent for the phase 1 upgrade that's currently undergoing design is over 12,000. So that is not that treatment plant is going to have to be able to accommodate development, additional capacity, whether it occurs or not, because you're required to build to that growth period. The electric utility, as far as how much power generation, megawatts available, is adequate for residential development as well. So as far as your utilities are concerned, they are able to accommodate growth or are in the process of being updated to a mandatory level to be able to accommodate growth. So those are the questions that came up. The first and foremost and most important thing for the Plan Commission to decide and to provide feedback to the developer on is a future land use map amendment on the table? Are you open to it? The answer is no. You should provide that feedback to the developer so that they can make a business decision. They are entitled to a review if they proceed with an application. So even if you were to tell them tonight, no way, no how, they're still entitled to a vote at a future meeting from this body. And the flip side, if you tell them that you're open to a future land use map amendment, that does not require you to approve a future land use map amendment in the future. It goes both ways. So with that, if you have any questions, we're available to answer them. But I guess that's the pieces of information I want the Planning Commission to have as you're deliberating on the concept in front of you.
Steve had a question about the PDD.
Yes.
Wow. I do. Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody. Like Dustin said, I've been on this Plan Commission for decades, and again, I'm starting my 27th year. And I begged you people to come to this forum, stood at that podium, looked at that camera, and I appreciate that. However, this is one of the larger decisions this Plan Commission will make. On one hand, I see the compassion that the adjacent property owners have. The only reason I'm on the Plan Commission is to look out for personal property rights. However, also the existing owner of the golf course has personal property rights. So with all that said, I'm just plain and simple, I'm just in analyzing mode. As I watched the presentation, a couple of things that I just want the Plan Commission, I know we've addressed this many times before, but I just heard the word PDD, and if we end up with, and Dustin can clarify this, but PDDs can involve zero lot line developments, and in order to retain the density, the Plan Commission certainly should be sure what they're agreeing to. Number 3, I guess I'm totally stunned with the development wanting to dedicate 80 acres. I have no idea, because this is new to everyone, I have no idea what staff's opinion of that is, but in other developments, we've even allowed, I think, fees in lieu of. just because there's a significant cost in maintaining 80 acres. It's staff, it's equipment, and I don't know what the staff side costs, but I do excavating, so I know what the equipment side costs might be. I have no idea what staff's feeling is on that, so those are just things, and I know the Plan Commission is more than adequately aware of these things. Just however, I just, as you make your decisions, just wanted to make you think about those things. I really don't have anything more. I appreciate my time. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? I just want to remind the Planning Commission too, our instruction is to make sure that we're throwing fastballs and that we're making sure that our applicants are very clear on kind of what needs to happen, what our advice is to move forward on either counts. So if you have no questions, I think now's the time to do as Steve did and maybe share where he said it. All right?
Yeah, how are we going to do that? Individually or?
I don't think you can pop out, but does anyone have any questions?
I guess I would just like a little more clarification on the 80 acres that you're talking about that would be potentially donated. Like, is it different? Was that a new? In the memo we have from the city, they talk about 20 acres repeatedly. So was 80 acres just something that's new tonight, or? I don't feel like we have enough information to really evaluate if it's been such a large change to this project.
I believe you're asking, and I think the planner's review was speaking of 20 acres north and west of Pinnacle Drive. Is that correct, Dustin? I don't want to speak for you.
Yes, that is correct. That was just highlighting what's kind of the core of the development. Wasn't exactly clear if all of the remaining lands were proposed to be dedicated and the materials provided. So the other kind of 60 acres that you're showing is south and east of Pinnacle. Important to understand that some of that 20 acres in the central part includes a lot of stormwater management. Those are details that have to get sorted out because, if it's part of the dedication, the city's now responsible for managing and maintaining that stormwater. That may not necessarily be something they want to do. We have very clear requirements on what the minimum dedication requirements are. It's about 1,400 square feet a lot or a dwelling unit. That results in about not quite 7 acres they'd be required to dedicate if they're dedicating for a park. They're obviously proposing much, much more than that. Stormwater management doesn't really count as dedication. It has to be usable green space. So we're really getting the details on stuff, but 20 acres is the core, and then they're proposing the remaining acreage that they're showing south and east of.
And is that like an existing 9 holes? Or I don't know enough about looking at this map to be able to determine what was the question.
What's remaining on the green space? Would that be a 9-hole course as is, or would they have to refashion?
Right. Like, what is it?
I believe there's room on the open space that there is for a 9-hole course, but we're not golf course developers. I believe there's almost 9 holes out there currently on that area. So
at least to some degree, to maintain it as a 9-hole golf course.
Mr. Holman had asked a question about the PDD, and I want to be clear. This will be single family. The reason we're doing a PDD is feedback we heard was the community citizens wanted a restaurant. They'd like to see a restaurant. It's a beautiful building. It's got a lot of room in there. So I believe currently it's not, the zoning doesn't conform for the use of the building. This would enable us to keep that as a restaurant and find a restaurant operator that would be interested in running it.
Any other questions?
I'm not sure if, sorry.
If you can go to the microphone, I think, for YouTube.
This is where I need help showing here on the map. I think what you wanted to see is pictorially on this aerial, physically, like if I had a red dot pointer, I should have brought one. But if you could run your finger kind of around, so that's what you're trying to see, right? Right. Okay. That's what I got what you were saying, and
I'll try to be loud since I'm not by the microphone, but we have showing here 3 different phases. We have phase 1, which is closest to the high school. Phase 2, which is south of that. Phase 3, this is over here. So within that phase 1 and phase 2, that's where that roughly 20 acres is talked about. So right here we have stormwater area proposed, as well as right here. The rest of this area would be proposed to be dedicated as green space, and potentially some walking trails throughout. If that's the option that the city would like to go with. And then parcel 3, this would also be proposed to be dedicated as well. And I think this is the area that was stated that it could potentially fit a par 3 golf course, 9 holes, whatever exactly that is. But generally, the green space that would be dedicated would be in these 2 or 3 different areas. And as I think Dustin or Drake had mentioned, I forgot who mentioned it, that's something that's typically kind of discussed a little bit further down the road in the process. And then could I just touch on the PDD comment regarding the 0 lot line? Is that fine with you, Chair? Okay, perfect. So yeah, your comment about the 0 lot line, in this proposal, we are not proposing to change the typical lot requirements that are found in the R1-4 zoning district. We are proposing to meet the minimum lot width, the typical setbacks. We are not proposing a 0 lot line approach. Now that's something, a different developer could propose that. But PDDs are very specific to the project that's being presented. So just want to kind of clear that up, that we are not proposing that.
I was just referring to, I know this is all single family, but if you were proposing R3, sometimes 0 lot line goes literally down the center of the same building, in duplexes. So that's where I was going with it. So.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to clarify just so everyone else understood.
I just didn't know where it was needed. I didn't know it was needed in the clubhouse, for that portion of the.
Yeah, the other potential exception that may be required, and this was brought up in the planner's staff report, is the block length for the subdivision. It may not be meeting the typical requirement in the subdivision code. So that is most likely a request that we would be presenting as well. We didn't necessarily mention it yet, just because with this conceptual phase being so early, based on your guys' feedback, the layout could end up changing, but that is potentially one exception, and that is able to be approved as an exception through the PDD if the city so chooses.
Is the Planning Commission comfortable with your understanding of the Plan Development District in the zoning code, or would you like me to run you through it a little bit?
Yeah, I did have a question that I wanted to follow up on that.
Sure.
Dustin, I'm hearing a couple different things. I'm hearing over from the developers, we're talking about single-family homes. You mentioned multi-family.
Sorry, there is a multifamily condo development that exists out there now.
Okay.
Which is on the community court area.
Correct.
This developer is only proposing single family. That complies with our R14 zoning district, which is our largest lot zoning district for single family.
So the reason we're looking at a PDD overlay is because of the clubhouse and the green space?
I think that probably gets flushed out, but it could be the block length requirement. They have stated it's about the clubhouse. Could you accommodate the clubhouse through a different approval process? Probably. The PDD certainly allows for it. I guess through the PDD process, the benefit to the city is that the city has control, can extract other things from developers, right? design components, material components, requirements of what is being built there, things like that. So there's exceptions being requested from the developer, but there are amenities and features that the city can require through the plan development district. That's the give and take portion of it, and then what is the public benefit, right? That's the question, the main question of the plan development district that has to be answered through that application from the developer. But I do want to reiterate that I think the most important piece of feedback to give to the developer tonight is the Plan Commission's thoughts on the future land use map amendment, the land use of this property, because everything spins on that. All next steps are contingent upon the Plan Commission acquiescing, being open to, at the very minimum out of this meeting, a change to the future land use of this. It's currently, open space, it's private open space. That's what you're grappling with, is, in the Plan Commission's opinion, is single-family home development. Maybe not necessarily even what you're seeing before you, the concept that's before you, but is single-family home development as an idea what you want to see on this parcel as a future land use map amendment? That is the main question before you, because if the answer to that dictates what happens next.
I can start.
Oh, go ahead.
Discussion. Single-family homes, I think we have a shortage here in Lake Mills, and I know Mr. Loos is well-respected in the community and has put out a good product in the past. My concern is the site. It's a site that's been a golf course for close to 100 years. The green space is something that we can't get back once we lose it. And I guess I just look at it as that it is an important part of the community, and it provides recreation for the community. So for me, it's tough to see the space go to single family homes. I feel that we definitely need it. I'd like to see more property for the teachers, for the police officers, for the fire worker, the firemen in the community, people that make this community work. But at the same time, the recreation side is very important. So for me, it's hard to take this land and make it single family homes at this point. So that's where I'm coming down.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Resolve to take a turn.
Anyone else want to step up?
I'm totally in agreement with Mr. Waters. I've heard from so many people, the property across from, is it Oasis or whatever, that they were talking about developing, that there's just different, if we're gonna develop new homes, this is not the site. This kind of where I'm right now. I'm not saying I'm not willing to consider, and I'm shocked at the 80 acres as well. I didn't realize that was a consideration. So, I mean, I guess if it had to be something, single family would be it. And that's what you said, we're kind of deciding, correct?
Yeah, it's a complicated question before you, right? I think that everyone understands the value that the golf course brings as an amenity to the community. We have a statement from the owner that the golf course will not be reopening them. The Plan Commission, has to decide, you can keep it so that the only use of that land is what's consistent with the rural development zoning district and, operating as a golf course. It's within your authority to do that. I want to be clear. You're grappling with, will another golf course essentially take up ownership of it and run it, and can they well, can they come to a deal for purchasing it? That's what you're grappling with, or will it close and not reopen, and we go from there. So if that's a question we don't know the answer to, right? We don't know what the future certainly holds as far as what alternative options exist from a golf course perspective. As Dustin said, you certainly could engage, it could be engaged in city, you could engage the city in a discussion over it, but is that a viable alternative? That is a much deeper conversation to have about that. So that's the question. You can't guarantee that it will remain an operating golf course, but it is within your ability to say, but we don't want single family here.
Okay.
I can't tell you whether or not the vision of the plan commission and what that is. Is there a single family home development that's acceptable to the plan commission, the developer, and the community? That is a question that remains to be answered. Should the future land use maps remain as it is, so that essentially only a golf course can operate on there, or some other compliant use under its current zoning? That is up. That's an unknown.
Is there a way to get, I guess, I don't know, more information on kind of, would the city be willing to do something?
Yeah, I don't think we should really, I don't think that's a viable conversation to have while there's an application in front of the city.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And if I could chime in with something. So one thing I did want to point out is the golf course is currently zoned RD, which is rural development. That only allows a very small amount of uses. One of those uses that is not allowed is a golf course. And so it is considered a legal non-conforming use currently. And so if within a 12-month period it is not operating as a golf course, it can no longer operate after that 12-month period. So although the future land use map does show it as being parks and open space, the current zoning of the property is not zoned appropriately. So so one of the reasons for proposing this development is that legal non-conforming use may expire in the short term.
You could zone it to allow though.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's accurate. I believe there's a conditional use permit that runs with the property right now. So I think that takes a bit more examination than the city.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. All right, any other thoughts? Keep going, go for it.
Sure, might as well, I gotta do this sooner or later. I certainly don't want to be misleading to Mr. Loos. But I think it's more of a crystal ball issue here than anything. If I'm hearing the property owners correctly, and everything we've heard tonight, that all basically revolves around a golf course, I also would be doing all them property owners a disservice if the property became blighted. So I mean, that is, it became blighted and it hurts your property values that way. This may be really viable. However, we don't know that. We just don't know. We don't know the future. I guess my opinion at this point would be, I wouldn't want you to spend more money on going further. At this point, I just don't see a way that I could support it, because it's been a golf course so long. Yeah, I wish I was more decisive, but it's not the houses per se. It's not that you haven't created wonderful developments before. It's none of that. I have some sympathy to the landowner because I run businesses and every day is not perfect. but there's a lot of homeowners that bought into this golf course community. And at this point, I don't know, I'm just telling you my honest opinion. Thank you.
You always do.
Could I make one more point?
Yes, Mr.
I don't know the future either, so obviously, right? But what I do know is in the event that this property somehow, some way should be considered for development somewhere in the future, and it's not me or my company, I highly doubt it's going to be dealt with the kid gloves that I'm trying to and have been trying to deal with this with. And I know people may not want to hear me say that, but I really do think that is true, what I referred to of. Again, I'm not trying to fight anything. I'm just pointing out that other developers may not be so friendly about stuff as far as density and all that kind of stuff. So.
And actually, while he's pointing that out too.
Is this okay, Drake? What do you think? It's back and forth. It's up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and say, Katie, this is gonna be the last back and forth, and then we're gonna go ahead.
I will let you know that there have been other interests in the property, but people wanted to do like massive apartment buildings, and they wanted to just shove a bunch of homes into the space, and we were kind of not comfortable with that. So that is one of the reasons that we like Loos. And honestly, we are not going to open, so it will become blighted property. So I guess the other thing you're gonna have to think of is just that way. What's gonna happen after it's not run for so long? And honestly, golf course properties that don't run, they just sit and they sit and they sit and they sit until you finally say, okay, it's time. But in the meantime, all of these property values go down, and we can't open it anymore. We don't have the financial availability to do it.
Yes, knowing what we know today.
Quiet down in the audience, please.
Knowing what we know today, and based on what I have heard so far, what I would recommend, and I'm not saying today if I favor or I don't favor it. However, what I recommend is that the next step to be taken would be a land use map hearing. Would be to look at amending a land use map, which would be a public hearing. And at the time that this takes place, we will know more. But I think that it's fair to go to the step that is not a guarantee that ultimately there would be a land use change or a zoning change. What the zoning change they are seeking is not possible without a future land use map amendment. I would suggest that there be a public hearing for that. When that occurs, we will all know more.
It's ultimately up to the applicant whether to proceed to that stage following the concept review meeting. So that is, to be on the agenda for the February Plan Commission meeting. Notices would need to go out tomorrow to the newspaper in order to be compliant. So that's kind of that the developer, the applicant will make that decision following the meeting to give the request that their application move forward to that step, and then the city will sends out the notices as required under state statute.
Okay, Rick?
All right, I suppose I better say something, huh?
Do it.
I've read all the surveys, I've read all the inputs, I've heard your input tonight, and I tell you, I am just trying to get my hands around the whole thing. And right now I need time to think about it. I empathize with the owners, I empathize with the owner of the golf course. It's a real major decision that we have to come to. Yeah, there'll be a lot of deliberation, I'm sure, before we do that.
I would prefer the future land use map to stay the same. I would not support an amendment at this time.
Ms. Silva? I guess to round it off, I was hoping today to come, I was hoping I was gonna get a tougher decision, and it was made a little bit tougher, so I'd definitely say, I appreciate what you presented here. I saw, I guess the way I see it is, there's 2 points to consider right today. One was changing the zoning from rural development to R14 for this property, and if that's in the best interest of the city. I appreciate you sharing your numbers, your business numbers. You didn't have to do that. It was a vulnerable move. I appreciate it. That was one of the things that made it a little bit tougher. If you can get past that, right? You go to number 2, and is this application the right way forward? I guess very quickly, top of mind, I just have some concerns around this core argument that this golf course simply cannot be a successful, profitable business. I'm not sold on that. Appreciate the numbers. I'm just not sold on that. And so if I can't get past that, it's tough to get to the next phase. I'm also have these concerns about everyone put it forward, but the big one is losing such a big asset to this community. And yes, maybe we didn't treat it as a big asset, but it's still a big asset, and it's right on the center of the city too. It's not like on the edge of the city, it's right in the middle, you know, and it makes it really tough. The asset with history, it's an asset with meaning, it's an asset with story. It's clearly tied to a lot of people in this community. If it vanishes, it permanently vanishes. There's no other golf course that will ever be made in this town ever again. I'm pretty darn certain about that. And so right now, no, I don't think that if we made this decision right now, it would be a decision that we would be proud of 20 years from now. If we go ahead, you know, we get these proposals all the time, right? What happens if in 2 months we get a proposal from your company or another company to build on the south side of town? And we just gave up a golf course because we wanted to get more houses. Tough one to sit with. I would have a really tough time sleeping at night with that. So, if it comes down to just whether or not I support the amendment, I like the plan. I don't see that. So, there you go. Any other comments, questions? Do you all have any thoughts, questions for us, I guess? No, I can't go to the audience. Okay. So then, that would then move us to the 6th. The next recommendations for future agenda items. Are there any from the city staff that we can anticipate?
Nothing with certainty right now. We'll, obviously, if we'll speak with the developer on this item, and then if notices go out tomorrow, then this would be on the February for a either 1 or 2 public hearings for future land use map amendment and zoning change request. I have to review any other applications to see if anything is ready for notice, any notice requirements or anything to come out for other applications. I don't believe we have anything with certainty right now, but it's possible.
Thank you. I'm going to take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Woman. Seconded by Mr. Mason. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. All right, we adjourn.